what would you say were the highlights of 2015 politically?
This has been a tremendous year. Some positive things and some very negative. At the personal level, family level, at a hard time. I lost my only sister in the month of May. It was very hard, and we laid her to rest in Kwale. At the political level, we have just been doing what we think we are constitutionally mandated to do as court, which is now the government in waiting. Because you recall, Francis, some Kenyans would loudly say the opposition is quiet, the opposition is not doing their bit. But I think over the year, this year in particular, we were able to conceptualize several things. And one of which was, as a highlight, was the idea of Okoa Kenya. This Okoa Kenya initiative is so important. And no one now happily can wish it away, because the challenge was to raise over 1 million signatures in terms of the requirement as per the Constitution, and we're able to surpass that. That is clearly a highlight. That Kenyans in a year which is not an election year can volunteer to sign up to 1 million signatures in order to come up with a constitutional amendment that will now stabilize or ground the already big achievement which we realized in 2010 when on August 7th or 27th we inaugurated a brand new constitution. And a lot of Kenyans used to say that this document is fine, but about 20% is not okay. This is the time now. But most important thing is to ground and deepen a matter of devolution, where of course we had to come up with a 45% figure in order to get devolution really going, including ward funds and also trying to make CDF even constitutionally relevant. So 2015 has been a very important year in the conduct of our politics, and therefore the political landscape has been tremendous. I can only think of that as a thing that stands out. There have been a lot of other things. Of course, we have had meetings with our governors and our senators. We have crisscrossed the country, not really crisscrossed. The crisscrossing is on the way. But I think the Okoa Kenya initiative has been very important. It being understood that we are not, the Prime Minister and myself are not members of Parliament. And I think we've been able to demonstrate that we can hold the fort. There are all those people wondering, can Kalonzo really? I've heard this, Francis, from a lot of people. Kalonzo has always been in government. Can he operate without being in government? I think I'll leave that judgment to those people who have those doubts to decide for themselves whether we have demonstrated that we can hold our ground, because it is important, always guided by what is in the best national interest. And therefore, we empty ourselves. I've always said that. I want us to empty themselves of prejudice and then be able to look at the bigger picture, which is our country. And of course, the other highlight this year has been the fact that we have pointed out as CORD government failures. And sometimes I think this is beyond failure. Things that are really tremendously wrong. The Eurobond saga, which people would wish away. You remember now at the level of State House, people coming out to defend Waiguru, when I think I was the first one to say there's something wrong here. This thing about NYS is not adding up, it's not right. And we were able to bring that out. I think that was a highlight, because even as we speak today, I'm reading stories about even the lawyers representing people who benefited from the National Youth Service booty, what is it, the goodies out there, that those accounts are getting frozen. And I think we've been able to get this government on its toes. Our intention is to get them home in a nice way, in a democratic way. by 2017.
When you talk about the NYS saga, I remember it was very vibrant. There were questions that were raised about the piece of land that you own in Inyata, that you had no moral authority to speak about alleged corruption in NYS, yet you are a suspected beneficiary of some NYS loot.
Even when I was running against President Kibaki in 2007, that issue arose. And I remember the late Meruge Kariuki was MP for Nakuru, raising it up. And of course they did the serious land search. And they discovered, and they went and advised President Kibaki, you will embarrass yourself, because this man bought this land from two companies. One was a widow called Janet Chirchir, who had been allocated 100 acres, and another company was called Betraco. We bought this. We went to the bank, got a loan, bought this land, willing buyer, willing seller, and it is land in Machakos County, by the way. And one way of actually protecting it from grabbers, because this is the land which is in Machakos, we bought it. And these are people who are not even from Machakos, but I thought it is good. But I was always inspired by what Mzee Moi had done when he came up with Kabarak. He moved from Baringo and set up base in Kabarak. And because I had this presidential ambition, I always knew Sekuru is a little bit far, and I wanted a place where people can find it absolutely easy to come. So that was the inspiration. It's bought land, properly bought, not even big acreage, because if you imagine, if that is all the land the former vice president has, some 200 acres, what is that compared to tens and tens of thousands? Some of them owned 40% of counties, and we know, and even then, this is something completely above board.
Wouldn't somebody then argue that probably used your privileged position as the vice president then, or as a minister then in government, to get such a piece of land?
How do you get a piece of land and you're buying, my friend? I was never given. I was never allocated. I bought. So, and I've told you I went to the bank. If you probably, maybe the next thing is look for the bank statements and go to my bank and it will tell you. I mean, and honestly, it's not an allocation. If it was allocation, you can even accuse me of abuse of office. But you're buying it, and I've given you the names. A widow whom Mzee Moi wanted to help from Kericho was given 100 acres. I bought it from her, paid stamp duty, willing buyer, willing seller. What would be wrong with that?
Let's look at the whole question of the fight against corruption in this government, especially this year. Would you say, from where you sit, the government and the administration of President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto has been able to fight or deal effectively with the fight against corruption?
In my honest, considered view, as a leader in this country, the hype about fighting corruption by the Jubilee government is what, to quote my friend William Ruto, said, hogwash. It is not true. They have no intention. Absolutely. And they know it. And they know it is fashionable to say fight against graft. Fight against graft. It is fashionable. Absolutely fashionable. But the reality is the will, because it's the political will evident. And in my considered view again, there's lack of political will. How can there be political will when, on the other hand, the oversight institution, the office of the Auditor General, is being watered down? As I speak to you, I'm aware that Jubilee, because the Auditor General, I think, and even the Controller of Budget came out very strongly on Eurobond one time, and then they are worked upon, and they are followed up to, I didn't know that the home of the Controller of Budget is from Seal Point, someplace near the lake, or that Mr. Uko worked at the African Development Bank at some stage. They're following those records to find out what was he doing when he was with the ADB, African Development Bank, because they want to embarrass them. They want to hound them out of office because they have played their role correctly. And you may ask yourself, how do I know all this? And I'm telling you, I've been former vice president, the immediate former vice president, and I know this is what they're trying to do. Basically because all this happened because of the Waiguru saga. People are so bitter Because how do you get out the president to come and openly defend his minister, only to be embarrassed? All right? And they say, oh, okay, so Anwar Guru has gone home. But who are behind this? Now they have gone for them. That's what I mean by lack of political will to fight graft. But for me, when you also destroy the institution, then it clearly demonstrates. I mean, there's no, for the avoidance of doubt, the moment the president signed into law this amendment to the on the office of the Auditor General, watering it down effectively, appointing a deputy, you can do whatever. I think given time they would even remove the protection under the Constitution. Therefore, this is what I mean. They do not mean it. I mean, you have seen others in a very strange way trying to do personal audit and others saying, you know, we are fighting graft. But it trends. The trend in the world is to be seen to be fighting corruption. When you know, when you shout about fighting corruption, and then you do the opposite. This is why the Pope, a man of God, comes here. And I think was more forthright than President Barack Obama on this matter of graft. You see, President Obama and President Uhuru signed something, and that White House was going to cooperate with State House and this kind of stuff. But do you hear much about that? Yeah? But the Pope comes and says, yeah, these faceless developers. I mean, what other moral authority would Kenyans want to know that this ghost of corruption is real than getting that kind of polite but very firm audit by the Pope?
And would you say the opposition has managed to put the government on its toes in the fight against corruption? Because once in a while you hear there are corruption allegations made against some of your serious colleagues in the top echelons of the opposition.
Well, of course I expect that there will be witch hunting. Call it witch hunt. And if you talk about what my colleague Wetangula is doing now, and if you ask yourself, as Minister for Trade, and I'm not here holding brief for Moses, but surely a ticket, a business ticket, or whatever ticket, and himself able to buy the ticket as Minister for Trade, if it was about the games that were ongoing in London, I think it was the Olympics or whatever. You look at it, you can see through that. And we've been told that these issues, right, were as a result of somebody who was sacked, fired by BAT, and therefore they want to spill the beans, they want to, and of course I'm told the bloggers at State House, goodness, they saw this. Therefore, a hit against Mother Karua must be given frontline treatment. Yeah, and that's what I've been seeing. I'm not here to defend on any of my colleagues, but you can see an element of witch hunt. I don't think taken together that amounts to anything, really. Just like you have seen, the same Jubilee government decide that Moses Wetangula must be dealt with mpaka even now and deregistered as a voter. Now that, I must tell you, the right to vote is such a basic constitutional right that anybody trying to dispossess one of the same, I think is against the spirit of the Constitution, and I'm not quite sure, and I'm very clear as a lawyer, that it was never the intention, even the Supreme Court judges, whenever they are dealing with this matter, to go in that direction. Therefore we are watching. Personally, I'm watching. And believe you me, if they try to deregister Moses Wetangula as a voter, I think there'll be a revolution. We will go into the streets. Because what will now remain of this country?
Is that a threat?
It's not a threat. I love this. What I'm saying, it's not a threat. This is not a threat. We must exercise in the spirit of the new constitution. Because I've said that this government only believes in the letter. And even the letter they're trying to interfere with. Right? But the spirit of the Constitution, we are that living spirit. And the spirit is you can demonstrate, you can worship in any manner, for instance, If you want to worship upside down, the freedom of worship is guaranteed. Yeah, this is the spirit. Because I believe it was not this constitution, some of us would be in detention. I think that given a possibility, Jubilee can reverse everything, get away with media freedom. They tried to do that, and you remember what we did as code. Although they talk about tyranny of numbers in the House, but we're able to mobilize not just Parliament, but the country to say you cannot claw back on media freedom. They gave way. All right? So we have done our best, I think. We have done our best, and I'm not threatening anybody, but I would dare, I mean, if it is IEBC, you dare deregister Moses Wetangula as a voter, what are you actually telling the world? That's the question.
When you say if they dare deregister Moses Wetangula as a voter, wouldn't somebody then say probably the opposition is huge on threats that may not necessarily get into real action?
When we said we are coming up with Okoa Kenya, people doubted it. We allowed that to people think it has died. Now it's a reality. As we hit 2016, I personally look forward to addressing the 47 county assemblies with copies of the draft bill. And I would dare any county assembly member to say no, because you now see even Jubilee, I think, panicked and came up with a version led by my friend Asman Kamama, yeah, trying to say something, and my other friend from Transmara, yeah. You can see a half-hearted measures trying to catch up with what CORD is trying to do. So, yeah, we have been able to demonstrate ability to act, given that we do not wield the instruments of power. And the instruments of power are with the president, all right? We are the opposition. We're lacking instruments of power. That is what we shall be looking for. Yeah. When we, of course, we do not have instruments of power, sometimes the government tries to go and issue threats, and the way they do it is they go give instructions. You know, the provincial administration is still intact. Yeah? And you go home and you find the chief. By the way, there's a DC in my village in Sekuru who is the only DC with authority to allow young people to drink themselves silly. When the president was pouring pombe elsewhere, that DC, because he must deal with Kalonzo Musyoka from his village, he is put there to make sure that I'm embarrassed at home. Therefore, they want the boys in Sekuru to be drunkards. They've even went and said, drinking is a beautiful thing. And he's still there. People try to make noise. Of course, now he's doing duty. He's a fantastic fellow for Jubilee.
All the period that many Kenyans have known you, you've been in power.
Yes,
in power.
Power. You've never been president.
I mean, power because you've been a cabinet minister then. I mean, you are among the powerful people in the country. Still now.
Leaders.
Yeah, leaders, you can say. Do you miss being in government? Does it feel odd for you being in the opposition?
Let me tell you something. I think I feel myself, because if I didn't do what I'm trying to do even right now, Francis, this country would be worse off. Particularly given the level of deprivation in terms of morals this country is currently undergoing at the moment. It is important some of us play this role. I think I'm doing a more important job in opposition than what I did in government. Because that's why people felt, you know, always foreign minister, education minister, minister for environment, minister for tourism, and all. Of course, they forget I was deputy speaker for 5 years, right? I think that it's a God-given responsibility. God has had a purpose for me to be where I am right now. And I have learned so much, because there are friends who are your friends when you are vice president. And when you are in opposition, they want to run away as far as possible. They don't even want to be seen near you. They can't even call you because you see Jubilee has a habit of listening to people's telephones. All right? They don't want to be identified with opposition. There are people like those. And I know the time will come when they all come back running. I know whom to trust. I know whom to really pity. And sometimes I pity a lot of my friends.
When you
Some of them.
There are also people who would say Kalonzo was used to power and he sounds bitter at times when he's criticizing the government. He sounds bitter, like he would want to have been in the situation of power. Are you bitter now that you're in the opposition?
I'm not bitter. I am not bitter with anybody, my friend. Maybe it's a man of expression, because to drive home a point, you may, in opposition, you may have to wear a face, okay? Now, I'm not being artificial, but I'm telling you, I'm not bitter with the president, these are all my friends, yeah? Uhuru Kenyatta knows he's my friend. If I can tell you how I fought for Uhuru, forget about the famous shuttle diplomacy, yeah? Convincing Kibaki to appoint him Deputy Prime Minister was not an easy thing, right? I have been there for my friends. Okay, I have been, therefore I have no problem with William Ruto. I have no problem with my friend, of course, my brother, Raila Odinga, and everybody. I'm actually very much at peace with myself. But what I have a problem with, yeah, are the injustices that I see being perpetuated. I will not stop at anything. Yeah, I therefore, even me screaming at injustices and things that must be dealt with by somebody, and as I said, I'm sure God gave me this particular vocation at the moment to be able to tell the story. And I'll do it without fear or favor.
Once in a while, I'm sure you've heard this, some people say, Kalonzo has a sense of entitlement. He feels he needs to be president. The world owes him the presidency. Wow. Do you feel like you've supported other people to be where they are today, and probably they don't return the favor? I've actually
literally held everybody's hand in this country. I think the time has come for others to hold mine, right? Now, Francis, I'm happy you've actually put it that way, very strongly. Yeah, I remember people used to say, Kalonzo hawezi kumwachia mtu, yeye tu ndiye anataka kuwa rais. Now, I was there supporting Mzee Moi as his minister for as long as, you know, you can remember. He's foreign minister, he's education minister, he's minister for information and tourism. I was there with President Kibaki, formed the first grand coalition, the first coalition government actually, and of course I was there with Raila, supporting him the best way anyone could think of doing. It used to be said that time, hawezi kuachia mtu. Do you hear that these days? I've never heard anybody, neither have I heard anybody call me a watermelon these days. I used to be called watermelon, I used to be called a coward, yeah, all those things. Like Kibaki, I'm told, was general something, yeah? I mean, these are some, when you're a leader, you expect that some will caricature you, somebody will think of who you are not. I am basically who I am, yeah? Very simple, where I come from, a man from Sekuru, yeah? Not bitter with anybody, but very, very, very strongly opposed to misrule. And I would want to be this country, a country under God, and a country that upholds the rule of law. And when I see deviation, somebody must raise the red flag. And that's what I've been trying to do. Yeah. But really, honestly, I'm not bitter. The sense of entitlement, I don't know. I think even you must feel you're entitled to something. Particularly when you go out, like I ran for president in 2007. I meant it. I really meant it. When I run again, as most likely will happen, I will mean it.
When you say, like you will do, most likely do it again, will you be in the race 2017?
Well, I look forward to 2016, God willing, because then we'll be making very important decisions, very important announcements. We will be literally unfolding. I said this year, everybody knows, my brother Raila will be running for president, Moses Wetangula will be running for president. They have made it clear. We have also made it clear we'll be running for president. It's easy. It's very easy. And people should relax through this. Because this time it could just come in so naturally that people say, wow. Yeah.
When you say wow, right,
I mean, they say, the president, we have not, I mean, this should have been the president. Yeah.
Raila has it's almost certain that he will be in this race, 2017. Moses Wetangula says he will. But obviously...
I know those
I know those two friends. We have taken the longest time to bond. And let me tell you, having said what I've said, I tell you this country is more important than Kalonzo Musyoka. Here I am, not a member of parliament. Yeah? People thought 2017 would not come. That's why I'm so proud of our constitution. Yeah. Because nobody, for instance, will come and say, if this Jubilee had the power, they would unwind everything, open up space so that people can be live presidents like elsewhere. But it's not possible under this. So clearly this country is tremendous.
Would you truly say you stand as a high chance of being the CORD presidential candidate in 2017?
I will work for that particular eventuality. I know my friend Raila will be working for the same. Wetangula will be working for the same. But I tell you, one of us, whoever it is, will be president of this country in 2017. That's my prayer. And that's a mission. And it is not like a vain mission. It is not anything that's why I said people will just relax and say, wow. Yeah? If it happens to be me, believe you me, even Jubilee, I'm telling you, sitting where you are, Francis, they know that if my two other friends say, Kalonzo, toa hawa watu, they will be home by the end of the day. Easily. Easily. And they will work so hard. I know them. They work so hard. But this is the last chance, maybe. I think they have played all the cards. Whoever had a card to play against Kalonzo, getting my fellow people elected on my party to turn around and begin to fight me, they have tried all that. But people are wise. People are so wise. Wameona every trick under every corner. Yeah, it's like they see Kalonzo under every bush. Wanaona bush, Kalonzo ako hapo. Wanaogopa nini jameni? Now all we mean is, they are all my friends. This is our country. But we have to be guided by ideology, and the ideology of purpose, the ideology of having to remove this country out of poverty is a overriding thing. Because some of us have lived through poverty, and we know how demeaning poverty is.
The governor of Machakos, he's been out there talking about Maendeleo Chap and saying it is an alternative to the many years of Kalonzo Musyoka leadership. And he's elected on your party's ticket. How does this make you feel?
Leave that to the people, simply. Leave that to the people. I've said that because I think what Governor Alfred was saying was he wants to be a community leader. And I said I don't offer any competition in that area. I've refused completely to discuss Governor Alfred Mutua. And even for you, Francis, I refuse, and I've told you, leave that to the people of Machakos. People are very wise. People can see through schemes. Yeah. You know, just like you mentioned Alfred Mutua, where people try to force a fight. I'm very good at avoiding unnecessary fights. And that's what I did all the time with my sister Charity. I never fought. I never fought to Charity. So it was a misnomer. And when the time came for me to play the brother, I did. But more importantly, Charity is charged not with corruption, but with obstruction. And again, I'm a lawyer. And in fact, I was ready. I think I remember telling Senior Counsel Paul Mwite, I want to go now, I want to be on record. And Paul and Kioko Kilukumi said, no, you know, now it would look a little different. Yeah? But I was ready to go on record. And there's nothing wrong with that. Because I think Charity has just been victimized for one thing, saying, I am going to mention the land grabber and resign. You remember? Yeah? She actually said, I will mention this, there is a name behind a name. And then with regard to Waitito land, what did she say? Why are you blaming me? I was not the chief negotiator. At that point I knew they are victimizing her for those two positions. And of course, I had to stand by my sister. There's nothing wrong with that.
Is there a plan for CORD, for the affiliate parties in the Coalition for Reforms and Democracy, to unite and form one political party, big political party, like it is being done in the Jubilee Coalition?
I don't think we have the luxury of time to begin to deal with that matter right now. Therefore, our priority is a stronger ODM, and you have seen them re-energize themselves. Our priority is a stronger Wiper. We are targeting as Wiper not less than 15 to 20 governors. All right? Plus, 15 plus governors, 15 plus senators. This is our target. And I'm sure the same with Ford Kenya. So if combined we end up with 30, 40, 50 governors, 40, maybe 39 governors, you can see what that means. Already we're in opposition, but we have 24 governors. Of course, they've been trying to compromise some of them. Yeah, either they threaten them with prosecution, and then this is why it's important, even if they're threatened, they should stay strong. Therefore, that matter is not in our agenda as of now. And we are watching Jubilee. I want to tell those people who are dissatisfied in Jubilee, as Jubilee joins, URP joins TNA, right? That there's room in court. And if they are true, if they are truly serious about saying, because I've had it repeatedly said by the Deputy President, that they want to unite the country. Surely, is uniting TNA and URP uniting Kenya? That's another question I want to ask. You know, for us in CORD, we believe and we allow Jubilee to do their thing. I think they are now coming up with the Justice of the Peace or something, GP. I don't know, JP. That's their entitlement. We cannot teach them what to do. They know best what will give them a victory. And indeed, as Deputy President said, which is very important, and I want to challenge them and Kenyans, when he says openly and in front of the camera that 2017 is already determined, what does he actually know about that? Because, to the best of my knowledge, CORD is set to literally, defeat Jubilee so clearly.
Thank you very much.